Welcome to Bangkok Suvarnabhumi Airport, where today I'm going to be reviewing the EVA Air Business Class Lounge before my flight to Singapore in February 2025. If you enjoy the video, I'd be extremely grateful if you would like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. The EVA Air Lounge is located near the F gates through departures. This is a little bit away from most of the lounges which are located near the D gates, but it was still very easy to find. Access is available to all passengers travelling on EVA Air Business Class, but also to passengers on any Star Alliance Business Class. As I was travelling on Singapore Airlines that day, I was granted access. At the time I was there, the lounge was absolutely deserted. There were maybe a handful of people, and so I had no trouble taking these videos. I'm sure it might get busier closer to the EVA Air flights, but at the time I visited, there were no flights on EVA Air departing soon. The lounge is a very decent size, with plenty of seating available. They also set up this display of old EVA Air plane photos. It would have been nice to have had a little bit more information, but it was still nice to see. I found this section to be a little bit oddly designed. I mean, all the chairs are kind of facing inwards towards each other. I'm not particularly antisocial, but it would kind of feel like you were all watching each other. This feels more like a private sitting room than a public lounge. A decent number of the chairs overlooked the tarmac, which was a very nice view, and you could see the planes moving to take off and actually taking off itself. The back of the lounge has floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the F gates. This should give you an idea of just how close the lounge is to those departure gates. Helpfully, the lounge has its own departure board showing when all of the flights are going to be taking off, so you don't have to head outside of a lounge to check. Moving just behind here, I'm not quite sure what to make of this design. I mean, I think I like it, but I'm not quite sure what they're going for. Still, looks pretty cool. Quite a unique design. Moving around from here, let's go check out the food. The food in this lounge is quite limited. There's a selection of sandwiches, some fruits, various juices, a few salad options. Don't get me wrong, the food looked all good quality, but in terms of lounge offerings in Bangkok, this was pretty limited. They had a number of hot options as well, various pastries, some dim sum, and they even had a pizza, which looked okay. Although it did look like it had been sat out for a while, so it was a little bit dry. It didn't stop me getting a slice though. Moving just over to the right, they had some soups, they had this sort of noodle curry rice dish, and they had miniature pad thais that had already been pre-made, and some beef noodles as well, if you were so inclined. Drinks-wise, there was a large selection of soft drinks as well as some yogurts available. They also had a fridge that contained ice cream, very impressively Magnum ice creams. There was a coffee machine that did freshly ground coffee, and a large selection of drinks, spirits, white wine, red wine. I didn't see a champagne there, but that's not too bad. They also had chilled beer glasses if you wanted to pull a beer from the fridge below. Just to the left of the drinks counter, there was this long table that had a nice flower display. It wasn't used at any point during my trip. However, I would note it had power sockets should you need to charge any of your devices, although they were tie sockets, so you'd need an adapter. Food-wise, I tried out some of the pizza, which was so-so. Look, it's pizza, you can't go too far wrong. And they also had a Diet Coke, or a Coke Zero. I don't speak Thai, but I'm pretty sure that's what it means. I also had some of a salted egg tart dim sum. Disappointingly, this had been left out for a long time, so it was dry inside and not runny at all. Tasted good though. For a sort of dessert, I also went for an almond magnum. It was very impressive to see them stock a branded ice cream like this. It was really tasty. You can't go wrong with a magnum. The lounge also featured this business area that had a computer, although it didn't have a printer. I was surprised not to see a printer, as surely that's the only purpose of having these computers in lounges. I mean, everyone's got their email on their phone, right? After eating, I went to check out the toilets, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see they had somewhat of a unique design. As you can see here, the urinals overlook the runway. I hope that window isn't see-through. This was quite a fun experience to be able to overlook the runway whilst using the facilities. I was also pleased to see that the toilets were smart toilets that came with cleaning functions if you pushed these buttons. This is always great to see, as it's very rare outside of Asia. Over by the sinks, these also overlooked the runway, and they provided hand lotion and hand wash. There were plenty of sinks, so you wouldn't ever have to wait for these. Overall, I found the EVA Air Lounge to be perfectly pleasant, although I was probably swayed by the fact that I almost had a lounge to myself. Being completely objective about it, the food and drink is not on par with the other lounges at Suvarnabhumi Airport, including the Thai Airways Lounge and the Singapore Airways Lounge, both of which you would have access to if you were travelling on EVA Air. There's nothing wrong, per se, with the lounge. It's perfectly pleasant. It's just that there are better ones at the airport. I only spent about half an hour to 45 minutes here before I moved on to the next one.